Hey there everyone, this is Patrick Kelly from Stokes Nature Center. Welcome to another hike. Today we're out at Right Hand Fork. It's one of my favorite places to go a little bit deeper into the canyon. It's a beautiful shaded trail, and so today we're going to be showing you some of the main junctions to make sure you're staying on the trail and some cool things that we find. So we're just right here at the parking area. We're about to head on down this trail, and we're going to be right along the right hand fork of the Logan River as we go. So whenever you head out on a hike deeper into the canyon, you always want to do what's called planning ahead and preparing. And what do I mean by that? First of all, you should always let someone know where you're going and what time you expect to be back. Next, you should always travel with buddies. So today I have Michelle, who's behind the camera, and you'll see 3 dogs running around. We have Luna, who's white with brown spots, Roger, who has short black fur, and Sable, who has long black fur. Also, you want to be prepared for where you're going. I'm wearing sturdy hiking shoes. I also have a hat to keep the sun out of my face, and I'm wearing sunscreen. And then I have water. And always bring a little bit more water than you think you need, and always drink plenty of it. It's hot out here in any season, and you always want to be making sure that you're drinking plenty of fluids. Other than that, make sure you're staying on the trail. You know how far you're going so that you know how much energy you need to get back. And as always, have fun and pay attention to what's happening around you, not just on the trail. Out here there's lots of different kinds of plants, there's lots of different kinds of insects and birds. You might see some mule deer or something like that. So always keep your eyes open, stay curious, and use that iNaturalist app to take a picture of anything you don't know what it is. And later when you get back into cell service or Wi-Fi, you can identify what that plant or animal is and add it to your inventory of observations. So when you hit this sign, you know you're on the right trail. We're going to be hiking, like I said, along the Right Hand Fork Trail, and part of this goes along the Great Western Trail, which is a trail that runs all the way from Montana through Idaho, Utah, Arizona, all the way down to the Mexico border. And parts of this trail were historically used by the Shoshone people who have been here for several thousand years. So whenever you're hiking along these sections of trail, you can know that you're following the footsteps of other humans that have been here for millennia and generations, and you're seeing some of the same landscapes they would have seen and experienced while they were utilizing these trails as well. So out here in Logan Canyon, including out here in Right Hand Fork, you're going to come across a lot of beaver dams. Beavers are really important to the ecology out here in Logan Canyon in the Utah wilderness. They create habitats by making artificial lakes that house a lot of fish, including Bonneville cutthroat trout. In addition, they'll oftentimes go through pruning down trees to help the growth of other species of trees, especially conifers, rise up through what's usually a dense cottonwood canopy. So when you see these beaver dams, they're really impressive to look at, and just imagine how many years of work it takes to make that dam and keep repairing it and repairing it. So here's our next fork. Today we're going to be going up Willow Creek because it's for non-motorized users. So that's hikers, runners, mountain bikers, horseback riders. If we did go up Rick's Canyon, we might run into dirt bikers and things like that. So we're going to err on the side of safety. And the river also goes this way, so it's going to be a little bit cooler, and these dogs are going to have a place to drink. So this is one of my favorite plants. Its name is Fireweed because it usually grows in areas that are newly burned or otherwise acts as a pioneer plant, moving into areas that don't have a lot of foliage in them. So one of my favorite things about fireweed, there's actually a little bumblebee trying to pollinate it right now, is that you can eat the flowers. The flowers are completely edible. A lot of people turn it into jam if they pick a lot of flowers and then put in some pectin and a bunch of sugar. Just kind of tastes like floral. But these guys are also really cool. A little bit further on in the season when they've completely gone to seed, these little arms you see here are full of seeds that are covered in fluff, and so they float through the air. So one of my favorite things to do later in the season is to take these little seed pods, and if you flick it, it'll actually pop open and all those seeds will go flying. So right here along the trail we find some wild raspberries. One rule if you ever find berries out in the wild, if you're not 100% sure of what it is, absolutely don't eat it, don't even touch it. Because I know this is a wild raspberry, because it shows all the signs, I'm going to enjoy this one. But if I didn't know what it was, I would just leave it alone and let the wild creatures that do know what it is take part themselves. This is a really great example of a beaver lodge. Beaver lodges are different from beaver dams. The beavers are going to be living in the lodge, whereas the dam they just make to build their habitat out. What's really interesting about beaver lodges is that all the entrances are underwater, and so they have to swim underneath to get in, and that helps deter predators or people that would want to get in there and kind of intrude on their way of life. Another really interesting thing about these beaver lodges is that you make them out of sticks and mud that they slap with their tail, and also that there's multiple chambers. So sometimes we'll have multi-stories inside of that beaver lodge itself. And in the winter, it allows them to get in and out of that lodge using that underwater passage, even if the lake or that water is frozen over. So right here we have a really good example of one of our wild mints out here in Utah called a horse mint. The way I know it's a mint, first of all, the flower kind of looks like Marge Simpson's hair. And if you're not sure, you can pick off one of the leaves, crush it, smell it. It smells minty. What makes horse mint special is that it tastes a little horsey. It's a little stinky, a little musky, but it's still good if you want to chew on it and get that nice mint flavor in your mouth. Just be prepared, it's going to taste a little musky. So out here on the Willow Creek Trail, you may come across what look like telephone poles. These aren't actually telephone poles, they're old telegraph poles, but what they go to, I'm not really sure. Maybe they go to an old logging camp, an old trapper's cabin, or some other structure or highway that this was used back when telegraphs were the main means of communication. But you will see them, and if you do see them, please leave them in place. Anything out here that's, even if it's human-made, that's over 50 years old, it's considered an artifact, and we want to make sure it's left in place because it's already assimilated to the natural environment and being used by the wild animals and plants out here. So low to the ground, you might find some blue berries. Those are likely Oregon grapes. Oregon grapes are a native plant out here, but they're not actually related to grapes. They're in a family all of their own. They're called that because they're kind of the purple color that grapes can be. But one way you can identify an Oregon grape is their leaf has all these tiny little sharp points around the end of it, and the berries themselves are presented on a red stem, and they're usually somewhere bluish purplish. If you pop them open to make sure what they are, it's going to be clear on the inside with really big seeds. They are edible, but they taste very, 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 very tart, so I don't recommend eating them. Some people do harvest them to use and put into jams and jellies and things like that, but you have to use a lot of sugar. Again, if you don't know what something is 100%, don't eat it, don't touch it, take a photo using your iNaturalist app and go on by. So this is our last fork, and this is where we're going to be turning around today, just because the Willow Creek runs up this way, up this canyon here, and the trail runs in the opposite direction up over there. And because we have dogs and we want to be able to stay cool, where there's no water, especially in the summer months, we don't really want to go. So thank you so much for joining us on our hike today. And because this is an out and back, always make sure to take the same trail back as you took out. You don't want to accidentally wind up on the wrong trail because you have a guess for a shortcut. So make sure you stay on that same trail on the way back, and you'll always find something new every time you do because you're looking at the trail and you're looking at your terrain from a different perspective. So thank you again for joining us out here at Right Hand Fork on the Willow Creek Trail, and we'll see you next time when we're up at Temple Fork.